Other churches.
Thank you for allowing this forum. I had this in my heart to do this, and Gail said about 3 or 4 weeks ago, she said, I am just so busy, I don't see any way I'm going to be able to plan anything for the 5th Sunday singing. In fact, she passed, I got the message through Renee, and I said, I didn't do anything. I started praying, and I felt the Lord really impressed me, and I asked a few of the leaders about doing this, and they all said, yes, please do. So I'm just excited about Mom, my mother, and Dad speaking into Mount Carmel. So I'm going to as much as I can do it and let them share a little bit. And I want them to take turns and just share about a few different things, starting with their salvation experience.
Okay. When I was 11 years old, I felt like if I was to leave this world, I would not be going to heaven because I was a mischievous, naughty little girl. And so I decided if I joined the church, that would take care of that problem. And I mentioned it to my sister and my cousin, that that's what I was planning on doing. And my sister said, honey, if you do, I'm going to tell Daddy because you're not fit to join the church. So I decided I'd wait a year and see if I could get fit. Well, when I was 12 years old, I wasn't fit either, but I decided something had to be done. And so I joined the church. But joining the church didn't do it. When I was 18 years old, they were singing a song, Nothing Between My Soul and My Savior. Then I thought, now that's it. In other words, God did his part. Jesus did his part, but there's something wrong with me. I'm not doing my part. For you see, I wanted to live my own life. I knew what I wanted out of my life, and I thought if I handed things over to somebody else, even to the Lord, I would be cheated. Well, it's not true, people. In other words, I did hand my life over to the Lord when I was 18 or 19 years old, and I have not been cheated. The Lord gave me everything I ever wanted in my life, and now I'm getting to be an old lady. So I can bear witness to the fact that he's faithful to his promises. Okay.
Both my wife and I grew up, raised in the Dutch culture in Pennsylvania. We both were Mennonites. And we grew up on farms, both of us. And when I was 6 years old, the doctors, Daddy wasn't very well, and the doctors found out, they diagnosed him with pneumonia. Tuberculosis, I'm sorry. Tuberculosis. And they didn't have no cure for it back there then. They said that what he needed to do was get into a solitary climate. And so he arranged to get off of the farm and found down in the southern tip of New Jersey a dairy farmer that was looking for a hired man. And so we moved to New Jersey when I was 6 years old. There was no Mennonite churches there. There were other churches, and Daddy and Mother started attending other churches. But shortly after he got there, it's amazing how the Lord does work. He came across a colored black doctor. And this doctor, he went to the office, and this doctor diagnosed him, and he says, you don't have tuberculosis. He said, you've got growths in your nose. And Daddy said, what can I do about it? He said, I can take them out right here in my office. And lo and behold, the doctor took these growths, gave him some kind of a anti-pain injection, and snapped both of these growths out of his nose. And Daddy, I'll never forget it, as a little kid, Daddy thought his whole head just, the whole world opened up. And his health just changed. But we stayed there in New Jersey. From the time I was 6 till I was 12, 6 years we lived there. And so in going to different churches, Daddy found the Nazarene church. And he really liked it. And he learned some new things that the Mennonite church didn't teach. And but as I was getting up into 7 and 8 years old, Daddy had regular family devotions in our home, and I realized something was bad wrong with my heart. I would say in the morning, today I'm going to live right. I'm not going to tell any lies. I'm not going to cheat on anybody. And man, about the time I get halfway through the day, I'd say, man, I blew it again. And I knew something was bad wrong. And when I was 9 years old, the Nazarenes back in those days, they had a camp meeting in the summer. And my sister and there were 6 in our family, 3 boys and 3 girls, and my oldest sister went along with me to this Nazarene camp meeting. And it was when I was 9 years old. And the preacher somehow or another just preached, the message just went to my heart. And as soon as they gave the altar invitation, both my sister and I went down to the altar, and I knew something changed. Jesus came into my heart. And that change has affected the rest of my life up to this day.
You've already touched on it a little bit, but I'd like for you to give a little bit of that as far as your background in the Mennonites and Pennsylvania.
Oh, in other words, the Mennonites 15, 60 years ago are much different than what they are today. In other words, in those days, we did not have a radio in our home, and definitely no TV. When I became a Mennonite, by joining the Mennonite church, I wore my hair straight back and in a little bob, and then with a little prayer head covering, which they said was essential. And yet when I was baptized, they took that little prayer head covering off of my head and baptized me by pouring a little water in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit on my head. So my little white hair prayer head covering wouldn't get wet. Then after I was baptized, then they put it on again. So if it's essential, I should have had it on when I was being baptized, right? Well, in other words, they also dressed me different. I was to be very modest, so I wore black shoes and stockings. Now, they're very popular today, I know. But in that day, they weren't popular, and I didn't like them. I like pretty colors. I always did. And the dress that I had came right up around my neck, right down to my wrist, way down below my knees. And I was sent to school to be a witness for the Lord. Now, you cannot be a witness until you know the joy of salvation. I didn't know. But later on, I'll find out, and then I'll share that with you later. So now that is your turn.
Well, there was one thing that I'm thankful of my background growing up in the Mennonite church. They really, Daddy and Mother taught me that God is real and the Bible can be trusted. Built that, and I'm so thankful for that. But there were other things in the Mennonite church that if you commit one sin after you're saved, when you commit a sin, you could be lost. And I lived in terrible fear, and that I would lose my salvation. And the more I read the Bible as I got a little bit older, the more there seemed to be so much in the Bible about those who trust the Lord have joy. And I didn't have it because I was constantly scared that I'd do this or do that, and then I'd lose my salvation. And it wasn't until after that we left Pennsylvania, and I think you want to tell that a little bit there, that we left Pennsylvania, that I began to realize, as I got involved with some Baptist folks, that when you trust the Lord, that God comes into your heart and gives you eternal salvation. When that first came through to me, I almost felt like getting up on the rooftop and just, glory, praise the Lord. And it's something that we shouldn't take for granted. because of the battles.
May
that
I
we
share
had.
something along that line? We had company one Sunday afternoon with a lot of our Mennonite friends, and my husband had just discovered the truth of eternal salvation. Once you're saved, folks, God's not going to chuck you out. He might discipline you, but he's going to work you through. Some way or another, God is faithful. And then I thought my husband and his friends were going to have a civil war in our living room because he was really determined that they would. Right?
After I was saved down in New Jersey, Nazarene Church, Daddy wanted us to be baptized in the Mennonite church. So he wrote to the Mennonite bishops in Pennsylvania, which was about 110 miles from the area of Pennsylvania where we lived to where the tip of New Jersey. And the bishop, I'll never forget it, the bishop wrote back to Daddy that he couldn't baptize us as long as we were going to a Nazarene church. And I went outside of our little barn one morning, and Daddy was sitting out there crying. He didn't know what to do. And it was just about a year after that he decided that since his health was much better, that he was going to move back to the Dutch section of Pennsylvania, and we children were baptized then in the Mennonite church.
I thought it'd be good if you share a little bit about how two different people fell in love.
Would that interest you folks? Raise your hand if you want to hear about that. Okay. That goes with my problem. Okay, I didn't fall in love with this man. I learned to respect him. In other words, my mother made us scared to death of guys. She was going to see that we walked that straight and narrow way and stayed pure to the day we said I do. And boy, she had us scared to death. But when I met Maurice Eshleman, he won my confidence. And then I knew I could respect him. And if he, whatever he said, I'd do. Now that leads up to a pretty good kind of love. But in spite of the fact that in other words, when he told me he thought it would be a good idea for us to get married, I was wholeheartedly in agreement. And so we got married, and we had 54 years of married life, and they were good years, but they weren't perfect. Nothing in this world is perfect. We've seen some storms, we've seen some thunder and some lightning, but it's worth hanging in there because it gets better year by year, and I don't know what I'd do without my husband right now. I love you.
The Mennonites had a lot of customs that as you grew up, you just fell into them, you just followed them. And one of the customs, because most of them were farmers back in those days, was the dating took place on Saturday evening, Saturday night. And I couldn't date on Saturday night because I started on the farm. We went through some real hard times, and Daddy had some chickens that he had ready to sell to little growers from $2.5 to £3 a piece. And he found out the price of those chickens wasn't what he would get in selling them wouldn't be enough to pay for the feed. And again, I went out to the barn one day and I found Daddy sitting out there crying. And a couple friends of mine had gotten involved with some farmers markets in Philadelphia. We were about 60 miles out of Philadelphia. And back in those days, most of you no doubt don't know this, but back in those days you couldn't buy a dressed chicken. If you went to just about any grocery store today and you can go to the department and pick out dressed chicken. They're in the frozen department. And but you couldn't do that back in those days. The only way you'd go into a store, the only way you could buy a chicken, they would be killed, but they would still have their feathers on, and they'd be hanging up on a row of hooks with their two legs tied together. And you'd pick the one, I'll take the third one. And that's the way you bought chickens back in those days. Well, I told Daddy, I said, Daddy, let me dress 6 of these chickens and take them to Philadelphia and see if I can sell them. We had an old 1929 Plymouth Coupe. And so we dressed 6 chickens, really did a good job on dressing them. Mother made homemade bread, and we took eggs and some potatoes and some other things. And I stopped on a street corner, pulled this little 29 Plymouth coupe off, and in 15 minutes I had 6 chickens sold. And I was, oh man, I thought this. So I went back and started dressing 6 more. And the next week we took 12. And to make that long story short, we ended up, after a few years, of dressing 2,000 chickens a week. But I couldn't date on Saturday night because we went to the market in Philadelphia, and Saturdays was our market day, and it was usually 9:30 or 10 by the time I came back home. But I had built a very good friendship with another fellow who was in the same Sunday school class I was in the Mennonite church. And one Sunday morning, he leaned over to me, and we were sitting together, and he said, you should have been with us last night. He said, you should have seen that girl that I was racing with. And after church, I asked him a little bit more what this was about. And so 2 weeks after that, on Sunday night, we went to a sort of a central Mennonite church. It was sort of right in the heart of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where these young people met. And back in those days, the Mennonite church, the women all sat on one side. They wouldn't be sitting like you're sitting here this morning. The women all sat on one side, and the men sat on the other side. And then when the church service is over, the women would stand in a great big group, we'd be communicating outside the church, and the men would be standing over on the other side. And after the church service that Saturday night, I was standing over on the other side with the men with my friend John Grable. And all of a sudden, John leaned over, and he said, over there's that girl I was racing with. And boy, he got my attention. And she came with her daddy. There were 3 girls in her family. And so all 3 girls were there, but her youngest sister, some young man had already gone over and asked her for a date. And so she and her sister were there together. And so we kept our eye on them, and shortly they started walking out around to their car, and John said, come on, let's follow them. He had no idea who this girl was or anything. And so
He just knew they were Mennonites.
I had my first car was a 36 Plymouth, but for some reason that night I was in my dad's 34 Terraplane. And so we followed them around where their car was, and we went over and jumped in the Terraplane, and her daddy backed their car out, and we followed them. Man, they went way out in the country, and we stayed about 50, 100 feet behind them. And finally they turned off the road, and they went down a long lane and up to the barn. And back in those days, they usually parked the car in part of the barn. So here we were following right behind them, and finally these girls realized somebody was following them. So after they got out of the car, we got out of the car, and we asked them if they'd go for a drive with us. And there, when we went for the drive, I realized there was something different about this girl that somehow turned a light on in my heart. And so we started dating, and shortly after we started dating, I was needing some more help in the chicken market. We had opened a couple more markets in Philadelphia. We ended up with 5 different markets in Philadelphia. And so she was a hired girl helping out in a farm, and she said she'd work for me. And so about a year and a half before we finally married, she worked for me and helped me sell chickens in the chicken market.
I also helped him to dress chickens, which is a miracle in itself for the simple reason that when you dress chicken, you don't put a little dress on them. You don't put a little hat on them. You undress them. And then you cut them open and put your hand in that mess and pull out all that stuff. That was enough to make you vomit, really. But I learned how to do that because I was in love with the man that was dancing chickens. Since she said that, I've got to tell you something. One morning,
we would start dressing his chickens about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I had to go down to the farm 18 miles and pick her up and bring her back so she could help dress chickens. And so we wore rubber aprons while we were working on these chickens, and we had them hang up on a bunch of hooks. And one morning, you know, me trying to be, I wanted to impress this lady, this young girl, and so I reached over in the hook and picked this rubber apron and put it, stood behind her and put it over and tied it on the back, and all of a sudden, she said, "Ooh!" And she said, "Get it off!" And all of a sudden, I looked down, and white chicken lice were crawling all over this apron. They were crawling. And I thought, what am I going to do?
It is amazing when you love somebody.
Love conquers all. The next thing was my brother Ted and I and one of our older sisters, we were born and raised in South Carolina, but Mom and Dad left Pennsylvania and came to South Carolina in a school bus, and I'll let them tell a few things in relation to that.
Go ahead, Steve. I don't know much about it.
Well, the more I was studying the Bible, and the more I was, somehow I couldn't quite tie together some of the things I was reading in the Bible with some of the things that my parents and the Mennonite Church had taught me. And I called the bishop up one day, and I asked the bishop, I had a long talk with him, because there were just things that I couldn't reconcile. And I'll never forget it. This bishop, he knew my mother's family back several generations, and the Dutch people, they know the various families, and so he knew my dad's family. And he looked at me, and he said, "You don't think the Mennonite Church could be wrong, do you?" And I was fool enough to say, "Well, they could be." That didn't make me very popular in the Mennonite Church. Well, I began to realize, I began to talk with different Sunday school teachers and so forth, that they could just, I wasn't getting my clear-cut answer. So I heard about a Bible school called the Lancaster School of Bible, and I enrolled in that Bible school, and went 2.5 years. And by that time we had 4 children, and I realized that several friends of mine were better educated than I was, and one of them had started going to Bob Jones when they were over in Tennessee. And when he came home, we sat up all night long and talked. I'll never forget it. I had a lot of contact with him, and he was a tremendous help to me. And he said, "Maurice," he says, "you really need to go to Bob Jones." And so I enrolled and found out that they were moving from Cleveland, Tennessee, to Greenville, South Carolina, and that was in 1947. And so I wrote to them, and I had to drop out of high school in the 8th grade and finish and help Daddy on the farm. And so I wrote to them, and they said they had courses for those that hadn't finished high school that would give them a diploma from high school, and they could take Bible study courses. And so we accepted, and I got out of the chicken business then, and we figured, well, how are we going to live? Well, and so all of a sudden an idea hit me, and I had seen a school bus in the automobile, a lot of a sales room up there in Pennsylvania. And so I went and talked with the fella, and he said, "Yeah, I'll sell you that school bus." And we'll forget it. The motor had to be reworked, and it had to be repainted. And so we bought the school bus, took all the seats out of it, and put bunk beds across the back of it on the inside. And we found that we painted it and put "Jesus Saves" on both sides of the bus we had written on it. And we left Pennsylvania with 4 children and came to Greenville. And they had a little park over there in Greenville called Cleveland Park. And we pulled the bus in there the first night, and I'll never forget, about the middle of the night, all of a sudden, she said, I'm getting wet. And it just had single metal roof on it, and the condensation with the 4 children sleeping in it and 2 adults, it began to drip off the ceiling on us and make us all wet. Anyway, the Lord led, there was a bunch of Army barracks, Army buildings built over there in Greenville at the time during the war, and they were never used. The war ended, and these Army barracks were never used, and we had the opportunity to lease. I found the fellow that the land that they were built on, and that we leased the hospital section moved in, fixed them up, moved in, and we began to fix up apartments for married Bob Jones students. We ended up with 18 apartments. We called it Preacher Boy's Court, and it was part of the experience.
Now you had to buy the book because we don't have time to. But they did, the church, Dad's a leader at Metropolitan Baptist Church, Southern Baptist Church in Greenville. And that church put together a recipe book, and we're going to have those downstairs. And $5 a piece.
That's right.
So anyway, those are going to be on the
And that's at a saving fee, folks, because you're good Christian people.
Some of us are. She's not talking I wanted them to share, but we're going to skip through. I wanted Mom to share about building memories. She has established a lot of memories. And also Dad, because I felt he was an expert as far as being a Christian on the job, sharing a job. And also, I wanted them to share about loving your children into the kingdom. I think they were experts. They had to work long and hard with us 7 kids. But one of the things we're going to skip to is Mom has been challenged with cancer. In fact, when Steve was, my oldest brother was in Vietnam, which would have been in the early 70s, mid-70s, Mom had some challenge with cancer. But I wanted her to share about things that God showed her about dealing with the impossible. All of us are going to be in a situation sometime when it thinks like it's war. You know, when hospice starts coming to your house, it's serious. And so I just wanted Mom to share a little bit about how she's been dealing with this.
Okay, I'll wind it all up together. In other words, the most interesting thing about a family is that day by day you collect memories. The way you eat at the table, the way you make plans to get ready for bed, your prayer time and the times you play together, even the times when you disagree with each other. It's all a part of family living. And you can collect memories. We did that with a little camera, and then we make take pictures of our children because we had to send them to our folks up in Pennsylvania in order for them to keep in contact with our children. And so that takes care of the memories. We're still working on it. Each year I get a big scrapbook, and we call it our yearbook. So when the children come to see us, or when we get them all together, like we have Ted's family today, we get pictures, and then we get 2 developed each one, give them one, and we save one. So that takes care of memories. It's important. It's a really a beautiful custom, and I recommend it to everybody, because when the children grow and they're gone, they'll still remember by the pictures that they see. You'll forget, but pictures say more than 1,000 words. Okay, that takes care of that. And now again, how to bring your children into the kingdom by love. I got a hold of a book, and it says you'll never win your children to the Lord by fussing, by threatening, by scolding, by preaching. You'll win them into the kingdom by loving them. And loving them and praying for them and doing what you can for them. But if you have to say no now and then, let them know it's because it has to be that way. There's just not enough means to take care of all their wants and wishes. But let them know you do care, and that it works. In other words, all 7 of our children are going to live to be old people. They do honor us, and I do appreciate it. It means so much. A card, a telephone call, it just makes our day, and it's worth it all. And now I'll wind up the last part. 28 years ago, they discovered I had a tumor in my breast, and they removed it. Then everything was well for a long, long time. But 5 years ago, I noticed there was a certain kind of pain in my body that wasn't there before, and we thought it was gas, but it was cancer, and it came back. And a year ago, I was in December, right the day before Christmas, I came home from the hospital, and they were giving me radiation treatments, and they take me in an ambulance from my house to the hospital every day for 10 days. And then shortly after that, the nurse called my husband into the kitchen. She said, "Mr. Eshleman, you'll have her about 3 more weeks." Now that was last January, and I'm still here, and I'm better than I was then, which is a proof that God still performs miracles, because people pray, because people love, people give you the support, and you just keep on living one day at a time, making memories, and it works out right. How many days the Lord has for me, I don't know. I do know that I'm going to leave this world someday, and that's okay, because I know where I'm going. But cancer is not a big thing. And Jay Kess sings a song, and this is the way I cope with it. In other words, a lady at our church gives us a lot of video tapes, and when I'm a little discouraged or hurting a little more than usual, I take a pain pill and listen to the good music. And Jay Kess sings a song, "Death is no big deal." In other words, someday we'll close our eyes and wake up in glory, and it will be worth it all. But in the meantime, we want to make life worth living by loving our kids, loving the grandchildren, and just living for Jesus. It's worth it all. Now that's all I have to say. Selma Books.
A verse that has helped me down through the years of my life, been a tremendous help, is Isaiah 41:10. "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." Shortly after this verse came to mean a lot to me, I picked up some kind of magazine or something, I don't even remember, but that verse was being discussed, and it had attached a parable to it that just somehow changed my life and helped even through the situations that we've been through in the last 5 years. And this was the way this verse was explained. "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I will strengthen thee." And it told of a fellow that was on a race running as hard as he could run. But he was getting out of breath. He was getting weak, and he was ready to fall over. And God put his strength in him. "I'll strengthen you." And that boosted him up, and he was able to run again for a short while, and he began to weaken again. This strengthening was beginning to wear out. And this verse says, "I will strengthen thee, I will help thee." And now this force, this power came and put his arm around the runner and helped this runner. In addition to giving him the strength, he actually helped him to run farther on the race. But pretty soon, the runner got so weak that the one that had his arm around helping him couldn't do it. They just couldn't make it any further. Then the verse says, I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. And the fellow that went over to help the runner, he says, "If you're going to make this race anymore, get up on my back. You don't have enough left in you at all. Get up on my back, and I'll run the rest of the race." And that gripped me. That's the way God works. That was a growth process in this runner's life. And God wants to produce and put a growth process. It's been heartbreaking, some of the experiences that my wife has been through in the last 5 years. But God has strengthened. God has helped. And God has upheld with His might and His power. And I'm more and more, as I get, the older I get, I see people trying to make it without God. I don't know how people make it without God. I couldn't have.
While they're coming, we're going to sing an invitational hymn. I just wanted to sing a little song. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. You're everything I ever hoped for. You're everything I'll ever need. You are so beautiful to me.
We're mighty proud of you. We love him too, folks.
Hymn number 294. It's all singing.
I'm going to release this with the benediction and also pray over the food. Everyone is welcome. We'll have more than enough. And if we don't, we're close to some place to get some more, don't we? We definitely have plenty. So everyone, please join us in the fellowship hall. Father, I just thank you for your goodness. there's responsibility that comes into my life because of the things that my parents have installed into me, Lord. And I pray that I would be faithful and encouraging and strengthening and exhorting those in this body. I pray, I covet their prayers, Lord, as we run this race together. And Lord, just bless the food. Thank you for the people who prepared it. Bless it to our bodies, that we might be strengthened to do your will, that you would have your way in our lives, in this church. And in Jesus' wonderful name we pray, and everyone say, amen.
Cut that thing off so I can go right up there.
Hey, look at that baby.
I will.
Son, I had to see you. Are you visiting with us today?
Yeah, I am. I tell you, though, I'd like to invite you back.
If y'all move to community, we'd like to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not one of them. Thank the Lord.
I'll tell you what. We love you.
Hey, darling. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Renee.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
We enjoyed it too. Tell them here.
Okay, well, you tell them.
Can't let them hear you say too much.
No.
Renee asked if we're going to do a song. Are you practicing on that? All right. Let us know. You tell us on Sunday.
Well, I ain't about to get on that flute. I'm trying to hurt Shirley. I know that her little grandson. She's up and she could be. Yeah, I told her she's scared she's losing. I told Mama, I said, the only thing I need to do is tell you to keep looking with her.
Enjoy it, man. You enjoy it. You can see about having a fan on here and stuff.
I told we waited over there, must have been 12 o'clock that night waiting for the calf, but she wouldn't let us get close enough to help pull the calf out. Then when he was born, he was dead. So.
Okay, she's bringing you guys something tonight?
Jesse, you coming tonight?
I had to comfort her. I don't think I did a good job. She
Let
Let me ask you, well, you can't say
Video
no.
yet? The vacation house video? You're on it. We need to see it. We'll make sure it's on tonight.
Hit me. How am I supposed to keep him? Okay, do that. Because I'm by myself. I tried. You are not having a nap. You can't take a nap. How you doing? Good to see you. I enjoyed it very much.
I got to try.
Real sweet. I don't know what your mom's going through to a certain extent, but evidently, when you go that long, hey Miss Glenn, how you doing?
Pretty good.
You go that long and then for it to come back, I know it's well, you never say I had cancer.
Yeah.
They told us that again. You never say you had it. For it to come, after 5 years, they say, that you kind of live to a certain extent. I belong to a support group, just a breast cancer support group. They have a hospital. And a lot of them that have been 25, 30 years and so forth. A lot of them just going through it, just. And we kind of holding up with each other, but. It does, but nobody, nothing takes place with whole life in God's hands. If you can do it, you can do it. Whatever your will is, that's it. That's in the ways that I think anybody can. I mean, I don't know how anybody cannot.
Yeah, okay.
They're really special.
Whatever.
So come back this way and stay.
I'm gonna stay.
Yeah, you don't have to go up the rain now.
I was waiting on you, She said she was going, and then she decided.
We're not staying there. No, because I didn't get a chance to cook anything. So. You brought the chicken? Well, thank God. I went back and helped him heat stuff up for a little bit. But I enjoy meeting his family.
Yeah, they've
Got a big family. That's one family right there, isn't it?
Yeah. That's he's got a kid and he has 5
And
children.
they got twins.
Yeah,
Awesome.
those little girls.
They're cute.
The whole family's nice looking. They're nice looking. Yeah, the 2 older girls are by his first marriage. And then he married Lisa. They have 3 more. The boy and Junior and
The two twins. So cute.
they're a great family. The oldest one, Maurice, is going to Brown University. She's straight out of school.
That's good. I really enjoyed it. I hate to miss the last part, but I want to see this.
I got the very last part.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's a blessing. That's a blessing in itself. That's beautiful. Like that.
Yeah, it really is. I think his heritage has impacted just, their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. I just see it. It permeates the whole family.
It means a lot.
Yeah, Justin has some tapes of his.
It makes you kind of look at yourself and make you think of how you're going to make an impact on your children.
A bit more of a testimony.
Yeah.
And they're such a good example, I think, of what mature love is. It's just unbelievable the things that his dad does with Mother. Everything.
I'll get lost. All right, bye. It's just like sharing a lot. You know that when something like that really happens, you know it kind of, I don't know, it's either going to strengthen you or it's going to tear you apart. And they went through a lot.
Especially from the disability kind of situation. Not that I don't keep going. I really think I'm still praying for healing in that situation.
You just gotta believe and have faith.
Yeah, really. And evidently they had it in each other.
Where did Miss Black go?
She looks so good.
Well, I told her to stay for dinner and she said she would.
But her car's still out there, so she's probably
maybe
back
she
there.
went around. Oh, excuse
She
me.
looks so good.
Maybe she went around
good.
back.
Well, Renee, we'll see you later, but y'all take care and y'all have a good New Year. Y'all gonna be here by yourself with the kids tonight?
Susan's coming and I don't know who else.
Okay, so some of the adults who wanted to come and help, they were gonna come. Okay. Y'all have a good time. You coming?
Debbie's coming.
You better come.
Julie said she was
Come.
coming. You're not coming?
You better come. Break the New Year's in, right?
You're going to miss a good party.
See you later. Y'all
Okay,
take
Tina.
care.
You too.
My mom was finding recipe books.
They've got them down in Fellowship Hall. They've got a box of them down there.
Okay, thanks.
Happy New Year.
Hey, how are you?
Little bitty
That's the one they want to add to the bulletin.
Okay. All right.
Are you back again? No.
This honey, look at me talking on the thing. I said, well, I'm sorry you didn't get to taste it. Everything was so special. You do everything special.
No, well, we try to make everything special.
You certainly do.
pictures.
Right.
Well, that's one of the advantage of being on this side.
I see you trying to dodge the camera. What'd you do to your face, Miss Mildred?
I had to have some things removed.
Oh, really?
That's why I got on britches. I'm ashamed, but I still
Oh,
had to
my
have them on.
I didn't even notice.
Well, I was like,
Does it hurt? That's aggravating. Sure it does.
does it?
They giving you anything to take for the paper?
Yeah, it just said keep it clean.
Do you want something to drink?
Justin, you must know what your mother like. Fix her a place.
Really?
Really?
If you do that, Renee, you'll have a better idea what she's...
Now you would have a good idea what that like. Hey, Renee, you're like.
Better hurry. Well, we can always eat something on the way home or when we get home.
Oh, no, you don't.
That's not the idea. Well, make compensation.
Miss Bell always cooks a full dinner. She's not here. She's a guy. Her family doesn't have anything.
Yeah. Diane usually brings a lot. I have some ham left from this morning if we need it. It's in the basket. It's on top of the microwave if you want to get it.
Boy, here. Here's the most beautiful lady in the whole world there.
Hey, darling. I love you.
And pork chop, go get that guy. Come back here, come back here. Man, it must have rained up a slough because that thing was totally empty when David Gregory was here yesterday.
I didn't know it rained all that much.
Oh, there you go.
Good.
Oh, our first Pookie here. Pookie does his first Pookie. Okay, let's check out the Pookie.
We got it on camera, too.
Zoom in.
Oh, Daddy.
Oh, my battery's flashing.
The last thing we have is a dog taking a dump.
Oh, but it's a pretty dog. What do we call the doggy? Pissy, come check this out.
Pork chop. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. Come on. Hey, it's a big old world out here.
Here's our new little car. The Saturn, it's a 94. Okay, this is one of Willie's first ventures out by himself. I don't want to take him back. They're not as good as the ones inside the box. I'm going to try them at church and see if I'm more impressed there. I'm going to try them at church. Oh, Willie doing his business. there's one. He's on the move when he does it. Oh, you have to love on Willie when he comes back in. I just had a tangerine. I just had a tangerine.
You did good with
Oh,
it.
there he is. He's already in
You
here.
did good.
Yeah, that's a good dog. Yeah.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, get that guy a
He's
treat.
good boy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he gets a treat.
Oh my goodness, Dad, look at you on the kid. Oh yes, look at that little baby. Oh yeah. Oh, give me some puppy. Oh yes, oh yes.
There's a beautiful lady.
Hey darling.
And there's another good dog.
Oh yeah. Ooh,
Low battery.
Ooh. Ooh,
We had the people over.
Huh?
And we had the people over today. Had the big table set. And the pretty Christmas tree. And our little aquarium. Big fish that came out of Mama's pond. Oh, Pretty got her a treat too. We just put down 96 pansies. You better get her brother back in here. Willie, you're gonna have a lot more liberty now that you got this straightened out. Okay, here we have Samson Clark and Willie Eshleman. Willie, you'll be fit for a rest here in a minute, aren't you? Willie, leave that alone. Here's JW early in the morning. She's had a wonderful hair day. Here's the queen. Sampson.
Hey, no. He did my hair today.
Wow thing.
Let's go
Dun, 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 dun. Here are these guys locked in the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, we gotta go check out the
Shaving cream on their face.